What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, I wanted to keep on pushing towards Legend, this time using a Corviknight team. Now, this Pokemon has been a little bit contentious in the community ever since its release, mainly because its moveset at the last second was kind of stripped away from it, making it a little bit more underwhelming than a lot of people would have hoped for. But this Pokemon has one of the best typings in the game, and it also is a Pokemon that, in general, I feel is good into the meta, so I wanted to give it a go and see what it could do here in this day and age. So let's get into the battles and see what Corviknight can do. All right, let's get right onto the first game of the day. Now, when I say Corviknight can be underwhelming at times, Claydol is one of the most, I think, evident examples of this. They are obviously doing Mud Slap here. That is resisted damage against us. They have non-stab Rock Tomb. We're doing stab Sky Attack against them, but Claydol can put up in this matchup and make sure that my Corviknight is not anywhere near as strong as you might expect it to be into a Mud Slapper. In comes an Emolga Safe Swap, though. They don't actually end up throwing energy, so a lot of energy still on that Claydol, and Emolga at this point likely going to go for an Acrobatics. Now, while I know this doesn't one-shot, if I do let this go, they can go straight Discharge here, so I do want to shield what I think will be the most likely Acrobatics, go for a Dragon Claw, either draw the shield or get a knockout against this flying and electric-type Pokemon. In comes a Dragon Claw, our opponent does shield that up, and in comes an instant Acrobatics here. I'm going to go for a no-shield. I know I don't get one-shot, but it will do quite a bit of damage to us here. We do survive, we get a full Dragon Tail down, and now Crunch ready to go against whatever is going to come in. If it's that Claydol at this point, I know they're pretty low after taking that Sky Attack, and we are already at this Crunch. If they shield this at this point, I'm going to have a shield advantage. If they no shield, then they almost have no HP left over on that Claydol. Dragon Claw just barely able to be reached by our Guzzlord against this Alolan Sandslash. Dragon Claw being thrown, our opponent obviously does not want to shield that up, and because I know our Weezing has almost nowhere to go against a Claydol and Sandslash core, I bring it in here, go for a Brutal Swing, just get any sort of drip damage that I can against them, and Brutal Swing actually is going to get a shield here from our opponent. At this point, they have to Drill Run us to knock us out, and if they do, that's all of their energy. Corviknight should be able to win the game, and if they Ice Punch us like they do here, then we can reach a Brutal Swing and get a decent amount of trip damage against them. They realize at that point, not much else they could do. All right, next game here, you're going to see a Corviknight up against a Mandibuzz, the battle of the opposing flying-type Pokemon. Because we're using Sand Attack, we have almost no Fast Pressure here, but our opponent actually did have Air Slash. Maybe I should have stayed in there, but we also did have to bait out this A-Slash. Our backline is pretty weak to it. In comes an Ice Punch. Fortunately for our Guzzlord here, they are using Shadow Claw, which is a resisted fast move against our Dark typing. If they were on Powder Snow, that Ice Punch likely would have knocked us out by now, but since it is on Shadow Claw, we can land this Crunch, potentially maybe flip this matchup if I can land that move, and they do let that go. I don't really want to flip Switch necessarily. I mean, we wouldn't mind flipping Switch depending on their final Pokemon, but I also just kind of want to get shields down this game. With less shields in play, I know our Corviknight into that Mandibuzz will have just a little bit more wiggle room. In comes a Dragon Claw, and our opponent actually just opts to let it go. At this point, these Air Slashes are doing quite a bit of damage to us. I swap out here to Corviknight, and our opponent stays in when I bring in my Corviknight, which is very interesting. Air Slash is not doing a lot of damage, and because they are not on Snarl, the energy generation is going to be quite a bit slower Foul Play as well. After getting that decreased damage in this season, not able to two-shot us anywhere near as close as they might want it to. They'll likely need 3 Charge Moves, and Sky Attack is going to be thrown against this Mandibuzz. Unfortunately, despite all the fast move pressure I've gotten into this Mandibuzz, it's not quite enough to two-shot with a Sky Attack here. If we could, honestly, this might not be a bad matchup for us, but because they will survive this and the Sand Attacks after, this is going to be quite awkward here to try to win this game. Sky Attack ends up landing. We make a nice catch, though, on likely a Foul Play here. We can go for a nice Fairy Wind down against them if they do stay in, or if they swap out, we'll see their full team, but it is a Drapeon here in the backline. I think a Shadow Drapeon at that, which is a Pokemon that, while we do have play into it with our entire team, we are down shields, we have a Weezing locked into it, which is definitely our worst matchup, and we have almost no HP on Guzzlord or on our Corviknight. In comes a Charge Move. My only hope right now is surviving an Aqua Tail, which we are able to do on 1 HP, reach a Sludge against this Pokemon, which won't knock them out, but maybe I can put them into a fast move farm down range. Sludge ends up landing. Our opponent realizing at this point that I do have Dragon Claw on my Guzzlord, so they didn't really want to shield a resisted charge attack, and this Dragon Claw likely is going to draw out their final shield. In comes that shield, but our Corviknight has no energy left over on it, and I'm pretty sure they are about as close to 2 charge attacks as they can be here. Aqua Tail number 1 is going to be thrown. Our opponent instantly throws the second one here, and unfortunately Corviknight just barely not able to stand attack down the Shadow Drapeon. This matchup is once again one of those matchups where Corviknight could have had a lot of play, but unfortunately just kind of underwhelming moveset, a little bit too slow, and not able to close out that game. All right, another Alolan Sandslash. I guess that's the Pokemon of the day today. Seen them, I think, every single game so far. A Pokemon that my backline really doesn't want to see, so seeing it on the lead is a very good thing. I'm going to go instantly for the Iron Head here. You can actually see in this matchup, I guess sand attacks do kind of add up. A lot of the time when you're using this Corviknight, sand attack feels like it does almost nothing, but here it is doing quite a bit of fast move pressure. They go for Ice Punch. They will be able to knock us out or draw a shield with the next one. They actually go for a fantastic catch on a Marowak here, and I'm a little bit concerned at this point. I've seen teams like this before. Sometimes you see Alolan Sandslash double Mud Slap, and if that is the case, then where is my Weezing going to go in this matchup? I'm not quite sure, but I'm also hoping maybe it's not that team. Maybe it's going to be maybe like a Wigglytuff in the backline. I've seen teams like that as well. Teams that just really disrespect Talonflame. Unfortunately, because there is going to be a charge move reached by this Marowak, I have to go for a Dragon Claw at the last second. Mud Slap is such an overpowered move. It generates energy so quickly, so we do have to waste energy there, and we do see their final Pokemon, and unfortunately for our Weezing, it is that Gastrodon. Crunch going to be actually able to land against that Gastro. We do have a shield advantage, right? That's the one thing we have going for us, but our Shadow Galarian Weezing has a lot of work ahead for it right now. In comes a charge move against this Gastrodon here, likely going to draw their final shield. They do want to keep this energy around on their Gastro, and at this point, Corviknight going to come in, force them to throw energy. They try to go for a farm down. It does not quite work for them, and at this point, I think we might have a chance here. All we need is to get to one more Brutal Swing on our Weezing. They do have a lot of energy, though, on Gastro. If they can get to 3 Body Slams before I'm going to be able to reach another Brutal Swing, they can win this game. With that said, I'm only 2 Fairy Winds away. They need to go for at least 1 more Mud Slap to be able to get a 3rd Body Slam, so we should be able to win this game, survive the one next Mud Slap, go for the Brutal Swing, and barely take this endgame matchup using our Weezing to knock out basically the worst possible team that our Weezing could have seen here. Brutal Swing gets a KO, Gastrodon goes down, GG's to our opponent. Alright, next game we're going to see a Guzzlord lead, so a very good lead matchup here. You might expect it to be good at least, but honestly, it's not as comfortable as you might expect. Dragon Tail is a very efficient fast move here. Sand Attack, on the other hand, does very little damage, and since our charge moves are so expensive, we don't even really outpace them too well here. Crunch, if they do have it, will do a lot of damage, might even get a defense drop against us. Hopefully, if they do have Crunch, I dodge that debuff because it makes it so the next Dragon Claw could potentially knock us out here. We do see Crunch, no defense drop is good to see, and in comes an Iron Head to try to draw a shield here from this Guzzlord. This likely will knock out if it does end up landing. Iron Head is going to get a shield, and now our opponent is likely going to throw a charge move against our Corviknight to knock us out. So we do have a shield advantage right now, but I am a little bit worried that Weezing won't have a lot of play in the backline, and Guzzlord, I have no idea what is going to be in the back against this team here. Might be their own fairy type, which could be pretty bad for us, and we see a Lapras come in, and at this point, I'm kind of worried that it might be the same team that I used the other day, with the Guzzlord lead Lapras in the backline, and then Weezing as their third. If it is that team, I probably just lose on the spot because I don't have switch advantage. We don't want to be anywhere near a fairy type Pokemon in the backline. I need to keep our Weezing alive. We shield up a Sparkling Aria, which definitely would have knocked us out or put us very low into farm down range here. Another Sludge will be reached, but it is not going to be quite enough damage here to knock out this Lapras. We can't get a farm down. I try to catch a move, but we actually both simul swap here. I try to catch the Sparkling Aria, but our opponent at the same exact time, for one reason or another, swaps into this Weezing, and now I'm in such a bad spot here. We've wasted our Guzzlord. If I would have stayed in that matchup with Weezing into Weezing, maybe I could have gone for Sludges and won this game, but now we're in such a bad spot where we have just completely sacrificed one Pokemon. Sludge is going to get a shield here from our opponent. I don't even think that the Sludge would knock them out from this range. It would be very close, but they also have a Sparkling Aria left over on that Lapras. Sludge ends up getting a shield from us, and they're at back-to-back here. We do not win CMP, so we won't even get to see if that knocks out, and Sludge will take us down. Unfortunately, not able to win that game, despite Corviknight having play into the entire team, just showing how underwhelming it can be at times. Alright, next matchup, a Sableye, a Pokemon that my backline has so much more play into, so while we do have a decent neutral matchup against that Pokemon with our Corviknight, knowing that I get heavily outpaced there, I'm going to swap out, try to get shields down, and see what our opponent is going to bring in. We end up baiting out a Grumpig, which is not the best matchup, but it's also not the worst matchup here for our Weezing. We are so incredibly spammy with these Brutal Swings here. Another one is going to draw a shield, and at this point, I could shield, go for another Brutal Swing if I wanted to, but I could also see another play, go for a Sand Attack down against this Pokemon, and leverage shield and energy advantage to hopefully win this game. In comes our Corviknight. They do reach either Shadow Ball or Dynamic Punch here. Let's see what they do opt to throw. Corviknight, though, able to easily survive either move. Yeah, it's going to be a Dynamic Punch, and instantly they swap back in to their Sableye. I try to make a catch on the Foul Play. We don't quite get it, though, which means now we're in a bit of an awkward spot. We do have a lot of energy, though. I think I can still go for a 2-shield farm down, which should be very useful for us right now. Foul Play is a very nice bait by our opponent, and another charge move coming through. Do I want to call that this is going to be another bait, or do I shield? I guess it's not a bait, but it is a Power Gem, so they didn't even have Dazzling Gleam. I wouldn't have had to shield either one of those moves. With that said, I do have a healthy Guzzlord. Maybe we still have play in this match. And comes a Dragon Claw against the Sableye. It knocks them out. Their final Pokemon is revealed as another Emolga in the backline. Very interesting Pokemon to see. Fun fact, I have no charge move pressure against this with our Corviknight, so I need to trip this down as much as I can here. If I can, I want to survive this Acrobatics, go for a Dragon Claw against them, but if I do survive, I would expect them to swap out. And if they do, I have to instantly swap out. We survive on 1 HP. We do a simul swap here. I have a Dragon Claw in the back line, and I know at this point we are going to be able to knock out Zamolga with either a Sky Attack and an Iron Head, or if they do knock us out with a Discharge, we can go for a Dragon Claw as well in the back line. That simul swap is going to win us this game. Emolga not able to knock out our Corviknight, and Iron Head will be thrown, knocking out this electric and flying type Pokemon. Corviknight able to beat the allegations and win that game. All right, next matchup, we're going to see an Empoleon in the lead. Very tricky matchup, actually. I know that Corviknight can win the 2-shield, but it's not really great in the 0s or the 1s. Our opponent instantly safe swaps a Golisopod as well. While we do have Guzzlord in the backline, that would be a pretty decent matchup into this Pokemon. It's honestly not that great because they have access to super effective X-Scissor, and I know at this point I can go for Chip and Dip, maybe make it so my Weezing can actually come in and maybe make something happen here. I know Weezing's not going to be too useful against that Empoleon, so I kind of wanted to just sack it here. No shield any move they're going to throw. I know Sludge is going to come very close, if not just straight up knock them out from this range. Aqua Jet does quite a bit of damage to us here. We are at the Sludge. Does our opponent want to shield up and keep their Golisopod around? In comes the Sludge. Our opponent does actually opt to shield. At this point, I'm going to go for another one, but at this point, our opponent also has access to a catch here, which means now a Sludge going to be thrown into an Empoleon. Not what I wanted to do, but I do have 2 shields to 0, I guess, but I have no charge move pressure against this Pokemon with my my Corviknight, right? But since they're on Stealing, it looks like I want to come in here, absorb the fast move pressure, shield once, go for either a Sky Attack. Well, it probably has to be a Sky Attack, right? Iron Head is going to be resisted by both water and steel, so go for the Sky Attack here, try to knock them out, and maybe use my Guzzlord as a way to win later on in this game. Sky Attack is thrown. Empoleon does actually get knocked out there. Nice to see, but Golisopod is going to be brought in, and now I have to hope that the final Pokemon is something that I have play into in the backline with my Guzzlord. In comes the Guzzlord, but unfortunately a Fairy Wind user has been revealed. I don't have Sludge Bomb on this current moveset, and even if I did, I don't think it would be quite enough here to knock out in one hit, especially the non-Shadow. I'm going to shield up, hope for an Acrobatics. We do properly shield. I need a Defense Drop with a Crunch to have any chance to knock out this Pokemon, but honestly, even if I do get that Defense Drop, I'm not sure that a Dragon Claw will be able to knock out with the follow-up Dragon Tail damage. In comes the Charge Move. We do get the debuff, but honestly, even if this does knock out, they outpace me with a Charge Move with that Golisopod. So yeah, I mean, we do not even knock him out here, but even if I did, I think we lose the game because Golisopod is just a little bit too tricky to deal with in the backline. They come in, they Shadow Claw us down, and we lose that game in spectacular fashion. All right, next matchup, another Claydol in the lead. Last time we saw this lead, our opponent kind of did a chip and dip here. Let's see if they're going to do that this time or if they're just going to play out this matchup. The one good thing about this, while Corviknight doesn't hard win this matchup, it is going to make it so maybe in the backline, my Shadow Weezing should have just a little bit more play, knowing that their Mud Slapper is going to be out of the way. In comes a Charge Move, likely going to be that Rock Tomb. They overfarmed by 1 Mud Slap here, so we know that they're only 4 away from their next Rock Tomb potentially. In comes an Alolan Sandslash, actually, so a very good play by our opponent. What they are doing right now is making our life very uncomfortable. This is my best answer to A-Slash. I go for the Iron Head, and what I have to do here is I have to bring in my Weezing. If I don't bring it in right now, how do I take out this Pokemon? They already have a big energy lead. I can't let them get any more, and now, even though I was able to get an Iron Head off because of that debuff, they're not quite in range where a Brutal Swing is going to knock out. With that said, I think if they do no shield, I can still potentially go for fast move farm down, and I need this A-Slash gone honestly as quickly as I can. I'm going to shield this up no matter what. Go for a full fast move farm down against them, or if we see that Claydol come in, I can go for Brutal Swings, potentially knocking them out or drawing their final shield with our Shadow Galarian Weezing. We do end up landing that move, and at this point, they're not going to get a farm down against us. I can get a farm down against them, and they don't even reach a charge move. We have a lot of energy on our Weezing. At this point, we have back-to-back Sludge ready to go against what looks to be a Furret in the back. While they do have 2 shields here, do they want to double shield, not even knowing what my final Pokemon is? If they no-shield this Sludge, I think I can just Dragon Tail down everything else in this game, and if they do shield, all I need to do is watch for a catch and make sure I can land a Crunch. They do opt to let it go, so now I just tap my screen. It doesn't even matter if they catch, because at this point, I don't need a charge move. I just need to go for as much fast move pressure against this Pokemon as I can. They do throw a Swift. It doesn't even two-shot us, though. Sucker Punch being resisted, not doing too much to our Guzzlord. Another charge move is coming through, but they are not at back-to-back here. They don't quite knock us out with that Swift. We knocked them out with that Dragon Tail. Guzzlord able to close out that game. All right, we're going to see next matchup here. It is a Galarian Weezing into our Corviknight. One of the best leads we could see here, but our opponent instantly swapping out to a Shadow Dusknoir. I thought I was going to be very confident in this matchup, but I see it is on Hex, which means they're going to outpace us to these dynamic punches here. We're going to no-shield, see how much it does. basically one-shots me. At this point, I'm kind of like, uh-oh, I probably should have shielded up that move. How do I finish off this Dusknoir now if they shield and hex us all the way down? Which is exactly what they do, and now I'm in such a bad spot here. I guess I should have shielded. They have 100 energy almost on this Dusknoir. They're able to go for a dynamic punch against us and maybe even a shadow punch. I don't know how we're going to win this game. We're going to have to try to come back from this deficit that we have put ourselves in. There is still that Weezing in the backline as well that I'm going to have to deal with my own Weezing. The only saving grace is that I do have a shield advantage right now. I am able to survive just long enough to land this Shadow Punch, or rather this Iron Head into this Shadow Dusknoir. In comes the charge move, our opponent does let it go. And the final Pokemon, honestly not a big surprise here, it is another Ghost-type Pokemon, the non-Shadow Dusclops. While we are down shields here, I also know that we have an energy lead, but there is a Weezing that I need 2 charge moves to throw into, and I don't think that we two-shot that Dusclops with Brutal Swing, so this matchup is going to be very close. I probably need to catch if I want any chance of winning this game, but we are getting whittled down. Even these resisted fast moves here are chunking down our health more than we want it to, putting us into range where even an Astonish down, or a Hex down rather, could end up happening. In comes another Sludge from our Weezing. Do we see a shield from our opponent, or will they let this go? They do shield it up. Maybe I should have gone for a bait, but even if I did, that is only 1 Fairy Wind of extra energy I could have had. In comes a Brutal Swing, so they are able to bait us, and in comes another charge move here from the Weezing. I am going to try to CMP, but unfortunately we do end up losing it. Even if we won it, though, I'm in range for another Shadow Punch knocks us out, and I know I don't two-shot that Dusknoir. Unfortunately, not able to win this matchup. Dusclops able to hex us all the way down. All right, next game, we're going to see Corviknight up against the Swampert. Interesting matchup here. Back in the day, it used to be the Swamp Scarm core that you see everywhere, so a lot of Steel Flying types into the Water and Ground type Pokemon, but I haven't ever played out this matchup myself. I have no idea how Corviknight into Swampert actually goes. If we can survive 2 Hydros, it's not that bad for us, but it looks like with the extra damage of Mudshot here, it is going to be able to two-shot us, and unfortunately outpace us quite a bit as well. We do actually land that charge move, though, which I think is exactly what we needed to see here. The only way that I can really take out the Swampert is if they don't play out the extended shielding scenario here with our Corviknight. In comes a shield, and then in comes a Golisopod. Another bit of an awkward matchup for us. I do have my Guzzlord once again that I can bring in to try our very best to Dragon Claw and Dragon Tail our way through, but because X-Scissor is super effective, and because I do have an energy lead here, they're able to get to back-to-back X-Scissors before I can throw a move on good timing. I know this isn't the end of the world. While I am down 2 shields, I am hoping that our Weezing, once that Swampert is out of the way, will have some play. Dragon Claw coming through, our opponent will likely end up letting this go, knowing that Golisopod has gotten our final shield. They want to go for 2 shield sweep with some Pokemon in the backline. What's it going to be? Looks like a Drapeon here. Guzzlord in general would have a good matchup, but that looks like it's an Ice Fang Drapeon. It's also non-Shadow. I have no idea how this game is going to play out. To top it all off here, they actually ended up going for a no shield on that Dragon Claw. Very interesting play. Honestly, I have no idea if a Sludge or a Dragon Claw does more damage. I would wager, honestly, maybe a Sludge would do more damage there, just because Sludge is such an efficient move. Our opponent does opt to throw a charge move. It is just an Aqua Tail here, which will knock out our Corviknight at this point, and now we will try our best to win this game with our Weezing. I know I can outpace before they get to 2 Aqua Tails to 2 Brutal Swings, but they have a catch opportunity, and even if they don't catch, this fast move pressure is adding up quite a bit. Brutal Swing being thrown, does our opponent shield this up? Likely at this point we will see a shield, and because they do shield up that move, I'm going to overfarm, try our very best to be able to outpace that Swampert to a move before they can Hydro Cannon us here. In comes a charge move. They do let that go on the Drapeon. They have no shields remaining. Brutal Swing is just barely going to be reached against the Swampert before they're able to knock us out with Mudshot fast move pressure. Weezing somehow coming through in the endgame, getting a nice little sweep there. GG to our opponent. Next matchup, seems like we're fighting Yakai almost every single day here. World Champ Yakai leading the Lapras into our Corviknight. This matchup's actually not that bad for Corviknight. First time I can really say that on this stream. One of the best Pokemon that I could see here in the current meta is this Lapras, mainly because I do end up resisting Psywaves, and I can get a shield here very easily from them with that Sky Attack. Also, our Sand Attacks are doing real fast move pressure for once here. I'm not sure why. I guess maybe we can do 2 damage against them. They're only doing 1 damage against us with these Psywaves, so for once, we're able to just kind of outpace with fast move pressure, go for these Sky Attacks, get a shield advantage, and maybe win the endgame depending on what they have in the back. In comes a Sky Attack from our Corviknight, and the best thing about this matchup is they cannot go for a Psywave down against us. They will need to throw a final charge move if they do want to knock us out here, and once again, a charge move will be thrown from Lapras, so they will win this matchup, but just barely. I have no idea what moveset Yakai is running. Is he on Ice Beam or Skull Bash? I am just going to hope right now that even if it is Ice Beam, that Weezing, once this Lapras is gone, should be able to win us this game. I'm never going to shield this. I know it could be a Skull Bash. I know it could be an Ice Beam. What is it going to be? I guess he must have had Skull Bash there, but he was not able to reach the amount of energy that he would have needed to throw it. In comes a Jumpluff and then a Shadow Drapeon in the backline. It seems like at this point, this game should be winnable for us. Our Weezing is going to have a lot of work to do, though. I know that our Guzzlord is in a bit of a tricky spot against that Jumpluff, but as long as we can knock out this Drapeon with Charge Move Pressure, we already landed a Sludge, which did a massive amount of damage. Fairy Wind as well is adding up. Aqua Tail gets a shield from us here, and another Sludge will be thrown. I know I can't shield again on our Weezing because if I do, then an Acrobatics from that Shadow Jumpluff could potentially knock us out. If I do let an Aqua Tail through, well, it will do a lot of damage. They will never fast move us down with those Fairy Winds, and because I do have access to a Brutal Swing right now, I can snipe down the rest of this energy from this Drapeon before they're able to get to another Aqua Tail. In comes a Brutal Swing, our opponent has to let it go, no shields remaining, and because Jumpluff does have a little bit of energy, they might be able to go for an Air Release, but not before we're able to reach a Sludge. So while they might have two back-to-back here, I can reach the Sludge here on CMP, or if they don't throw it, then I can also swap out here in just a second, keep our Weezing alive, and do a combo play with our Guzzlord, throwing the Crunch to knock out this Jumpluff. Very close endgame there, but luckily Shadow Galarian Weezing, once that Lapras was out of the way, was able to get a nice little endgame sweep, and Guzzlord able to clean up once again in the back. Next match, we're going to see a Sandslash. Seems like it is the Pokemon of the day here, Sandslash left and right. I'm happy to see it on the lead, though, and the non-Shadow, while we do a little bit less fast move pressure here, is a little bit more consistent of a matchup because I don't get two-shot by their Charge Moves, especially after the fast move pressure. Iron Head will get no shielded, which is exactly what we want to see. The less they invest into this Pokemon, the better it is for me, because I do not want to see this against my Guzzlord or against my Shadow Galarian Weezing. Ice Punch doesn't do all that much damage, but the next one will chip me down, likely deep into the red. I have no idea what's in the back. Last time we saw an A/Slash lead, I think it was that double Mudslap lineup, which means if it is that once again, it could be a little bit bad here that I've let my Corviknight get so low. Ironhead being thrown, our opponent does opt to let it go. What are they going to bring in? They bring in another Steel-type Pokemon, ABA Steel from our opponent right now. An absolutely crazy team, saying I have seen a lot of Talonflames just in general in GBL, and this Pokemon by no means, at least in my opinion, pairs very well with that A/Slash. With that said, I guess they are putting us in a bit of an awkward spot. I have to instantly swap out. I don't want to give that Corviknight any farm down against our own, because a Corviknight up energy is actually a bit of a nightmare for our backline. We do land a Crunch, which is nice to see, but it's going to come down to that final Pokemon, whatever it is going to be, to see if we can win this game. Sky Attack will get a shield to our Guzzlord now. I have a Crunch ready to go. I overfarm just a little bit just in case we can outpace something if they let us move through. Crunch is going to be thrown. Does our opponent shield? They do, and now this Corviknight is in range where maybe I could even get a Fairy Wind down or potentially just knock them out with a Brutal Swing. I don't want to go down with my final shield here because I know Weezing doesn't really want to be on 0 shields. I want to keep 1 shield for that just in case we can outpace to a Brutal Swing before an Iron Head or a Sky Attack will be thrown, and this will likely either draw their final shield or just get the KO against the Steel and Flying type Pokemon. We do see a Charge Move reach right at the last second here. I tried to make a catch, but they threw in the middle of that Fairy Wind, which means no catch ends up happening. Iron Head does draw a shield, and fortunately for us, we see their final Pokemon is going to be something that Weezing has a ton of play into. Not only that, but our Corviknight, despite being pretty low at this point, should be able to survive these Bullet Seeds, knowing that it is resisted by both our Steel and our Flying typing. In comes a Rock Tomb. I want to clear our debuff at this point, because if they do end up surviving this next Sludge, it could get a little bit awkward, and we clear our debuff, go in with our Corviknight, survive long enough to actually force him to throw energy here, so not even a one-turn lag could lose us this game at this point. Rock Tomb knocks out our Corviknight, and we're going to get a back-to-back Charge Moves here. Go for a Sludge against this Claydol, go for a Brutal Swing against that the Corviknight in the back that's still alive, and we should be able to win this game. Very interesting team from our opponent there. Super weak to Talonflame. Their one answer to Talon does not want to be down energy into it, which, I mean, if it's in the backline, it's always going to be, so I'd love to see what they would do in a matchup like that. All right, next game here is going to be what you might consider a good lead, I guess, for the Steel-type Pokemon with the Ground-type Fast Move Pressure. The Shadow Drapeon into Corviknight matchup, though, is nowhere near as good as you might hope it to be, although it does look like I am doing 1 extra damage with my Sand Attack here. There is a breakpoint you can have with a Corviknight where you do 3 damage instead of 2 with every Sand Attack you do. I don't really have that bad of a Corviknight. It is decently high rank here. I would assume that our opponent must not have a great Shadow Drapeon, because if we're doing this much damage just with our Fast Move Pressure, likely means we are getting that breakpoint, and our opponent likely did not invest in defense on this Pokemon. They try to snipe us down with that Claydol, but fortunately I do swap out just in time here to our Guzzlord. We see they throw after 5, so I know for a fact at this point that's just going to be a Rock Tomb. It's not an Ice Beam. I can no shield, go for a Crunch, and now that we've gotten rid of this Claydol potentially, or at the very least we're going to neutralize it so our Shadow Galarian Weezing doesn't have to deal with it in the backline, I'm hoping that we're going to have some play with whatever the final Pokemon is going to be. We're able to reach this Dragon Claw right before they're able to get another knockout against us. So we're going to go for this Dragon Claw, maybe draw a shield, maybe just get the KO against the Claydol. They do opt to let it go. What is going to come in here? It is going to be their final Pokemon, the Shadow Jumpluff. This Pokemon, down shields, is not the best matchup for them into our Weezing, but because they do have that energy lead, and also because of that one-turn lag, I don't know if we can win this matchup if they do end up double baiting us here. Aerial's bait does come through. I know they still have their Drapeon in the backline, but Weezing is my star player at this point. I know if I land a Sludge Shadow into Shadow, it's going to put them to a farm down range. Yeah, at this point, they do let that go. Is this going to be an Acrobatics? I know it could be, and I know if it is an Aerial's, they still don't get to another Aerial's before I'm able to Fairy Wind down. They do bait us for some reason there, but because of that bait, I should be able to win this game. We have back-to-back charge moves here. We have a charge move on our Corviknight, and we have just so much HP across the board where I don't get one-shot by a charge move with our Weezing from that Drapeon. We go for a combo play here. Iron Head will be enough here to knock out this Drapeon, and we have a charge move in the backline ready to go against this Jumpluff. We have both a Brutal Swing or a Sludge. I want to guarantee that we get this move off. I knew for a fact I had a Brutal Swing, might as well just throw this and get the KO against this Shadow Jumpluff. GG to our opponent, very tricky matchup there, but Corviknight putting in a decent amount of work for once in its life. All right, next game going to be a much trickier lead matchup here. It's going to be that Talonflame we were talking about a little bit earlier. Talon's not great for this team, but because I do have access to Guzzlord in the backline, and honestly, Shadow Galarian Weezing isn't terrible into it here, what I'm going to do is chip him down with Sludge, or maybe draw shields if I can, and see what we can do here to avoid this matchup against our Corviknight. In comes another charge move here. I know it's likely going to be a fly, but if it's a flame charge, that's going to make it so much worse where they can easily farm us down in the next two Incinerates. Luckily, it was just a fly, which means no extra fast food pressure for them. Sludge is going to be thrown, and it won't draw a shield from them this time, but it does put them pretty low at this point. I'm kind of thinking they're kind of weak to our Weezing, right? They've stayed in this matchup for so long. I'm going to shield this, try to get the final shield with this Brutal Swing, and if I can, well, I am in an awkward spot. Since they have shown that they do not have Flame Charge, I'm pretty sure we can drain all the energy on Corviknight and hope that Guzzlord in the backline could potentially win us this game. We go for a Sand Attack down against this Talon. I know it's a bit of an ambitious play, but they only reach one Charge Attack one way or another here, and I know it's going to be a Brave Bird. We can survive that. Despite being resisted, it does do over half of our HP, but that Sand Attack down does end up happening. Unfortunately for us, ends up being a Dugong in the backline, not a Pokemon that either my Corviknight or even my Guzzlord wants to see. This Pokemon is going to be very tricky to handle. Icy Wind, if it does get reached before my Iron Head, is going to make my life absolutely miserable. We just barely are one Sand Attack away from getting that CMP, and because of this now, I'm not going to be able to knock out this Dugong with a Dragon Claw. That means that in this final matchup, whatever their final Pokemon is going to be, I'm not only going to be on like red health, I'm going to be at -1 attack. I don't think I can win against whatever Pokemon is going to be in the backline, but I have to hope at this point that my Guzzlord somehow just hard walls whatever it's going to be. Icy Wind puts us deep into the yellow. Shadow Annihilate. Yeah, there's no hope for us in this one, I guess, but GG's to our opponent there, and we're going to see a nice little 4-1 set here to close off the day, and with that, puts us right back into the 2900s. So if you would have watched yesterday's video, you would have seen that I went positive on my record, but I still went negative with my elo because I got a ton of down pairs. I dropped like 50 points yesterday, going, I think it was 11-9, and I was able to climb up just a little bit more here, back into the 2900s, so once again in range of a legend push. I wouldn't mind putting this push to an end, just getting it here in the next couple of days, and then hopefully just relaxing here for the next little bit in the season. But thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed the content on the channel, and you want to see more like this in the future, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and I would really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.